Today we need to talk about some updates on HYBE and their acquisition. We have an interesting turn of events. We then have to talk about why people are scared of Jimin's safety and why they think insults were blurted at him recently. We then have to talk about ARM's reply to all the journalists in the West. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave Desai. Hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Grab your dumplings, hey Spilling Mug merch, and let's go. The first thing that we need to talk about is what ARM said recently. I'm absolutely loving the press he has done recently and just how open and honest he is. I think when he was active with BTS, or since he was the leader of BTS, he was trying to watch everything he said as he didn't want his words to be associated with the feelings of the other members too. So if he were to say something slightly controversial, he doesn't want people to think that that is the whole group's opinion. So what did he say today and why could it be slightly controversial? ARM ended up doing an interview with a Spanish media site to talk about his experience in the West or the US. One of the first things that was talked about was the racial stuff about K-pop. If you're not a political person, that's totally okay. However, it is very difficult to talk about K-pop, history of K-pop, and what it represents without getting into the idea of the fact that it's Korean pop music, and it's supposed to represent Koreans. The question that was asked was why it appeared like Koreans or Asians work so hard, given that the standard of K-pop is to be perfect, whereas the standard of Western music is to be quote-unquote authentic and relatable, and this could also be a reason why Bang PD had previously mentioned on CNN that the expansion of K-pop had slowed down. A lot of that could be because we are seeing a drastic shift from an audience in America wanting something that is less perfect. But the idea here is that K-pop needs to be perfect. That's the whole point. It's why we call them idols. ARM also pointed out the fact that Koreans didn't have much not too long ago. It was only apparently 70 years since Korea had picked themselves back up from war and all the other crazy stuff that happened. So for Korea to bounce back and now to be seen as a leading country with a high GDP, people must have worked freaking hard to do that. ARM claims that people in the West, when they say things like, oh, that must be stressful for everyone, ARM claims that this is how you get things done. And it's true. I think in America, we are very much the land of work, work, work now, but alongside that, we have this culture of chill and relax and enjoy life. And people in the US can afford to relax and enjoy life because our nation has been the leading nation for the longest time and has no signs of giving that up. So of course, at that point, we can all relax a bit. So a lot of people born into this newer generation in America will look at more developing countries and see how hard they are working and then just tell those developing countries to chill. But that is a privilege that we have to be able to say that since we're on top. ARM also said something a bit more controversial when the interviewer asked if the Korean system is a bit dehumanizing. ARM responded to say that there's points that he disagrees with in the industry, but when he says that, HYBE gets upset because the media will take that out of context to say, hey, look, see, the system is so bad and it destroys the youth. When in reality, it could just be one or two things that are actually wrong. I think the industry has gotten a lot better with all this, and there's been a big sweeping change. Of course, people will still hang on to stereotypes that are extremely outdated. How many people still think K-pop is just colorful Korean girls jumping around in miniskirts singing terrible songs, even though that has not been the case for ages? I can see why representation of HYBE would be quite upset when news articles like that come out, because they're trying to globalize the label and industry. Fans in the US are not going to want to support an industry that is believed to be hurting children or hurting people. If they hear an artist signed with HYBE and they know that HYBE is a Korean label, there becomes a stigma that all the Korean labels must be bad. The fact of the matter is there are contracts and things that still exist out there that are terrible, but it's not the entire industry and it's not something HYBE has really participated in doing. I think HYBE will also push forward a big change in Korea as well, and we can start to see new and old labels follow what HYBE has done. A lot of the newer promotion styles already mimic what HYBE has done with BTS. Things like artists having their own talk shows and reality shows produced in-house. It used to be that every group would need to go on TV or a variety show on TV in order to be seen by the fans outside of their music videos. And of course, not be able to be in their full true self in fear that the TV networks may edit something to make the artist look bad. BTS has loads of reality shows where the members show their true self. I do react to a ton of those over on Patreon. We do have a limited tier with limited spots currently for $1. If you're interested in having fun over there, I will link that in the description. HYBE has been reported heavily to be acquiring another label called SM. SM has been around for many years and is known as the grandfather label. They started this whole thing of training their idols and really helped make K-pop what it is today. It's quite shocking when HYBE announced that they will be trying to take over, because then HYBE would be merged with essentially the founder of K-pop. And then conversations of HYBE monopolizing the industry is something that is always going to be talked talked about since they are aggressively expanding. When SM shares were being bought by HYBE, Kakao, the Korean messenger app company, was also in talks of acquiring a lot of shares also. The two began a heated battle to see who would be the main stakeholder of SM. It was believed recently that HYBE was dropping out, but sources report that the two, HYBE and Kakao, are actually coming together and working together with SM. They claimed it might be unreasonable to continue this legal battle over ownership and a waste of money since legal fees are expensive. Of course, HYBE really wants to expand, and Kakao is a huge company with many different legs in social media, legs in entertainment, and many things. So both had the resources to battle together. But I am assuming they realized that the two would be stronger together. So what does this mean for the future of SM, and who will be working on what part of SM? Well, it's currently reported and believed that Kakao will be taking over the business side. What HYBE will be doing is allegedly not buying any more of SM stock, and then SM and HYBE will work together to create a business platform, whatever that would mean. So maybe something like Weverse, I don't know. And so Kakao will now apparently be the largest stakeholder in SM. So we shall see what happens from here on out. Either way, HYBE is still going to kill it and do really well. Jimin was recently seen to be launching his new solo work. He has a new song that is apparently coming out on the 17th of March, and it's very exciting to see his solo stuff finally taking form. He recently was seen on his way at the airport and likely on his way to pursue some new solo stuff, and a lot of fans showed up. In fact, it seemed to be an overwhelming amount of people that showed up given his reaction to everyone there. He seemed overly overwhelmed, and it became a bit of a safety concern. Anytime the boys are at the airport, an overwhelming amount of people show up. It's quite concerning if Jimin will get hurt or anything like that. The internet freaked out a bit when a bunch of Jimin fan sites came back into action or revived their account. Obviously, for a little bit, Jimin wasn't really doing anything, so there really wasn't any content for these Jimin accounts to post. And so when the recent news of Jimin at the airport came out, it was quite interesting to see the amount of fan sites jumping to the airport to meet Jimin. And there's nothing wrong with this. The airport had a public schedule, and this is how everyone knew about it. The issue when people hear Jimin fan accounts is a controversial issue, because a lot of hate that Jimin was receiving was believed to have been coming from Jimin fan sites. People felt like these accounts were pretending to be Jimin fans only to insult and attack Jimin constantly. And thus Jimin, not too long ago, was receiving these death threats and people saying that they were going to murder him when they found him at a show. They were scared that since a bulk of the fan accounts were active again, they were going to target Jimin or hurt Jimin at the airport. And this would cause Jimin to very quickly leave so as to not get hurt or just not be there when these people are shouting insults at him. But that never happened. However, a lot of those accounts were from people who were just simply pretending to be Jimin fan accounts and were actually people who did not like Jimin. HYBE has made it very clear that they will be taking legal action on those types of accounts and people who have harmed Jimin. The people who follow Jimin into private areas and take videos and photos are what gives Jimin fan accounts a bad name, when the majority of these fan accounts don't do stuff like that. A lot of them show up when they can and when it's allowed and never go near Jimin to even hurt him. There's many fan accounts that even raise money to help support Jimin's work, and I think a lot of those accounts will be very active when the solo album comes out. The people who scream that the fan accounts are bad are also probably the first people to go to a fan account and ask the fan account for an album, because these fan accounts will buy bulk albums with their donations just to give it out to ARMY who can't afford it. But what do you think about this? How do you feel about the battle of SM, HYBE, and Kakao? How do you feel about people scared Jimin was at risk at the airport? And how do you feel about ARM's reply about the West? Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos. A link down below. Thanks, just leave a comment right here. Love you. Bye.